So for everyone, look at your arm position when you're running. Are you wide with the arms coming across the body? Is the entire torso swinging back and forth? Are you not doing anything with your arms? Are you weird like me? Are you only doing one thing with one arm and keeping the other one locked in place? All right, today we're just continuing the conversation with running. Today I just want to go over two pretty common inefficiencies when it comes to people running. One of them is arm swing, kind of where your arms are moving, whether it's excessive, whether you're crossing the center line. The other one's vertical oscillation. Of the two, arm swing is much more important. Vertical oscillation, that's one of those like really nitpicky things that if you're a competitive distance runner, that's really gonna matter. If you're just kind of a casual weekend warrior, I wouldn't worry too much about your vertical oscillation, probably because you also need like a $500 or $600 watch just to identify what your vertical oscillation is. So if you're just like a casual runner, focus more on the arm swing. If you're a little bit more competitive, you might want to look into vertical oscillation. So probably the first thing to look at when you're running is seeing if your hands come across your center line. So you want more of a forward and back arm swing as you're running through, and you don't want to be using the torso to swing your arms. You want the torso to stay basically facing forward, and you're just pivoting through the shoulder as you swing. It's not the entire torso twisting side to side. So any sort of twisting or rotational movement through the upper body, your lower body needs to compensate for that. And it's also a lot of wasted energy. So if you're twisting the torso side to side, that's rotational movement that's not really driving you forward. And any sort of energy that you expend that's not moving you forward in running is essentially inefficient. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the entire torso, it can just be the arms. So your torso can be pretty much still, and if your arms are coming across your center line, that's still gonna travel all the way down the system. So if you come across your center line with your right arm, your lower body needs to compensate for that cross body energy. And again, that's just wasting energy when that arm drive should be coming forward and back. A good cue for like a casual runner is kind of driving the elbow directly back, keeping the arms at 90 degrees, getting that hand to end up by the hip. So this would be your backswing position, and then as you come through, trying to get the hand roughly up to shoulder height. That's a decent arm swing for somebody who's like a casual runner. So with sprinters, it's just gonna be more of a violent movement and the intensity is gonna be a lot higher. So another thing to look for is people not moving their arms at all. They just sort of lock in at about 90 degrees right here, and then they run and their arms don't really move at all. They're just kind of, this is their home, this is their safe place, and their arms don't really move. So the reason you want an arm swing, it's not just your natural gait, kind of the coordination of the upper body and the lower body. You also get this thing called a posterior sling. So, if I get back far enough, as my right arm goes out in front, my left leg is going to be up. So that's kind of the coordination that happens when you're running. As that happens, you're pulling that lat tighter, going across the body diagonally down to here. As that knee is up, that glute is also on stretch. So you get this cross-body sling, it's called the posterior sling, that in this position, this leg now wants to kick back and the arm wants to sling back. So you kind of stretch those tissues and they naturally want to recoil. So each time you're running, opposite arm, opposite knee, once you get up to that position, those tissues tighten, they actually want to come back and contract and pull your leg back and pull the arm back as well. On the flip side of that, as you drive the arm back, the tissues in the front of your shoulder, they get on stretch and they want to sling your arm back forward. If you have your arms locked in at 90 degrees right here, you're just losing that posterior sling. So a good clean forward and back arm swing just makes you a much more efficient runner. The last thing I'll mention about arm swing of like kind of running faults that you might see is people actually not swinging both arms or just swinging one and keeping one arm locked in at 90 degrees, or just like an uneven arm swing, something like that. This is like kind of from my personal experience. For many years, I ran with an armband on my left arm, and because it was in New Jersey and it's hotter and more humid than anything else on earth and it's disgusting, I would run without a shirt on and I would end up chafing right here as my arm would swing back and forth. Given that, I would end up just locking my left arm in here and not moving my left arm. My right arm would swing naturally, and still even years later, now I still have that. I'll catch myself running and my left arm won't move even though I don't run with an armband on here anymore. So if you run with an armband for your iPhone or iPod or whatever, you know, check your position, kind of look down, make sure you're still swinging that arm. Another thing that can happen is people will flare out their elbows so they're not rubbing against themselves. So if you run with an armband, it might be messing up your arm swing. Okay, so arm swing, very practical. Vertical oscillation, most people shouldn't care about this too much. This is like if you're a very high level runner, this is one of those things you'll want to look at. Vertical oscillation is the average height that you travel for every step over the distance of a race. I think like the best marathon runners in the world, like the guys who win Boston, I think they average like a 4 to 6 centimeter vertical oscillation, which is like tiny. It's nothing. It's crazy that they can do that at that speed. I think if you get yourself down under 10 or 9 centimeters, that's pretty good. So 9 to 10 centimeters, 3 to 4 inches, that's going to be your average vertical oscillation. That's what you're going to be looking at. The reason that matters is because, like, if you're running marathons, say you're traveling up and down like 5 or 6 inches on every single step, that's 5 or 6 inches going up and down that you're not going forward. So again, it's just about energy conservation and how efficiently you're using your body's energy. If you're traveling up a lot with each step, that's, you know, a few inches that you're not traveling forward. So yeah, for somebody running a 5K, probably not a huge deal over, I don't know, a 20 to 30 minute race depending on the person. If you're running a marathon and you're trying to be competitive in it, vertical oscillation, that can matter. If you can get yourself more efficient and not travel up and down with each step as much, that's going to make a huge difference over the length of a 26-mile race or longer if you're doing an ultra. The problem is it's very difficult for people to identify what their vertical oscillation is, just visually, or even if they have a coach looking for it. It's like you need somebody running beside you the whole time. I know some of the Garmin watches, I'm sure some of the high-end watches actually track that, and a lot of people probably didn't know exactly what that is. So if you're trying to be competitive in anything, kind of like in the endurance distance, I'd say kind of beyond a 10K or maybe beyond a 10 miler, you might want to look at vertical oscillation. If you're in that, you know, 12, 13, 14 centimeter range, that's quite a bit of vertical travel with each step. If you can cut that down a little bit, you might cut a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes off your time without having to do any extra training. You're just making your stride and your gait more efficient. So if you can kind of shave a few minutes without actually having to do any extra work, that's going to be a huge benefit to you. So for everyone, look at your arm position when you're running. Are you wide with the arms coming across the body? Is the entire torso swinging back and forth? Are you not doing anything with your arms? Are you weird like me? Are you only doing one thing with one arm and keeping the other one locked in place? Take a look at those. If you're a little bit more competitive, you happen to have the hardware that can actually track it, take a look at your vertical oscillation. If you can shave that down, it's going to make you a much more efficient runner and make you a little bit faster without actually having to do any extra training.